Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Do you feel stuck, silent, and stressed? Is something hurting your heart and soul? Are you burning yourself out? If so, you are in the right place because this is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with inner peace and joy. Let's get started. Hey, last episode, we were talking about when it can get scary to reach out for help, to ask for help. And we were talking about it really in the context of bringing to light the injustice or hurt or suffering that we are experiencing. Because when we have suffered a hurt, an injustice, and we find ourselves suffering as a result of it, it's a very vulnerable thing to share with someone else. Because there is the fear that they will blame you and judge you. And it's a very real fear. It's not just a real fear, right? For you, it may already be a part of your lived experience. That when you spoke up, when you shared with someone your truth about how you're hurting, how you're suffering, that they blamed you and they judged you. So we know that this is something that happens. Now, if you think about, well, why does this happen? Why does this happen? Well, if it's happening, if people are blaming and judging you if you tell somebody that you're suffering, you're hurting, and they're blaming you and they're judging you, there's only one reason why they would do that. It's because they're not able to connect with you empathetically. They're not able to connect with you emotionally and all that, but I mean compassionately. And a lot of times when we're talking about an injustice like sexual abuse, sexual assault, and people blame the victim, and they judge the victim, it's not that they're bad people. And they're not trying to hurt you, but it's like the perspective that they have. Right? It's just a perspective that they have. Like they really believe that if you weren't wearing sexy revealing clothing, or if you weren't out at night alone, or if you hadn't been drinking, or if you hadn't been engaging in whatever other kind of behavior as part of their thinking that leads to sexual assault, sexual abuse, that you would have been safe, that this would not have happened to you. See, so the thing is that there's a lot of myths out there, right? There's a lot of misinformation, miseducation out there. So that's one thing, but behind a lot of the myths and why people buy into them, there is a reason, right? I mean, and a lot of times, the reason is that people need to believe in these myths as a defense mechanism. It's like you need to believe that, you know what? It's like, because it's like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? Like if you really believed that someone that you loved, that you trusted in your life could abuse you, what would that do to your mindset? What would that do to the quality of your relationships and how you related to people or not? It's scary to think that someone that you love, you're trusted, someone who is a part of your family or a really good friend, that they could hurt you. It's just too scary a thought. It's just too, at one level, it's like it's not something we want to accept. So we allow ourselves to believe in the midst of, oh, see, this happened to her because of the way she was dressed, or because of where she was in terms of she went to the wrong kind of party, or she went out with the wrong kind of person. And in your mind you say to yourself, well, I will not engage in these behaviors. My children will not engage in these behaviors. My loved ones will not engage in these behaviors, and therefore I will stay safe, and my loved ones will stay safe. My children will stay safe. But what's the truth? The fact of the matter is that while there may be certain behaviors that put you at greater risk, the fact of the matter is that, especially when it comes to issues like sexual assault, sexual abuse, domestic violence, any kind of relationship abuse or violence, no one's immune from it. If you've been listening faithfully to this podcast, then you know my story. A lot of people, they don't expect a survivor of child sexual abuse to look like me. Because, first of all, I was a child. I was an 8-year-old. Okay? So what could I have done to provoke anyone to get sexual with me? Like, seriously? So that, stereotype out of the window when it comes to me, right there. Okay? Now, other thing. This was like, was I somewhere I wasn't supposed to be? No. I was in my home, in my bed. So that stereotype of, oh, maybe she went out alone. Maybe she went to the wrong party or something like that, out the window. Okay? Was I with someone I wasn't supposed to be? Because that's another stereotype. You're usually like, oh, that person was just trouble. Why did you go out with that person? We told you that boy was no good. Why? But you still went out with him. Why did you go out with him? This is your fault. Was I with someone that I wasn't supposed to be with? No, not at all. Because the person who abused me was a member of my own extended family. Somebody who was loved and trusted by every single person in my family, including myself. Some other stereotypes that we have are, oh, well, maybe you come from a broken home, like your parents were neglecting you, or there was no one there to take care of you, you weren't protected, all those kinds of things. Not true. I was surrounded by a very loving family, and I was actually very, very well protected by them. I was so protected that I was never even allowed to go out alone anywhere. I always had other family members around me. There'd be very old, trusted servants that we had that, everyone in my family loved and trusted, almost like family members. If it wasn't a family member with me, it would be one of those old trusted servants, you have nannies and all. So I was never even left alone with anyone that my family didn't love and trust. So there goes that stereotype. It's like, my gosh, so what's going on? It's like, how did I end up getting abused? Because look, no one's immune to these things. The stereotypes that we have, look, there's always a certain measure of truth in any perspective, even a stereotypical perspective. But we have to remember that stereotypes ultimately are just that. They're stereotypes. They're generalizations that we have created based on our observation of a limited number of cases. And ultimately, that's the problem with the stereotypes, right? Is that they're overgeneralizations. Now, if you really fall for the stereotypes, if you really believe in them, and this is where a lot of the myths also arise from around who gets abused, why they get abused. A lot of the myths arise because we believe the stereotypes around who is an abuser and who gets abused. When we fall for these myths and these stereotypes, then we can fail to protect ourselves in situations and contexts and circumstances that do not fit these stereotypical ideas that we have, that don't fall under the myths that we are holding on to. So, by the way, what happened in my case in terms of somebody that I loved and trusted being the person who abused me is not any anomaly. It's not an unusual thing. As a matter of fact, 80 to 90% of all cases of sexual assault, sexual abuse, are cases where the perpetrators and the victims, they know each other, and there was like some kind of relationship pre-existing. And it was a relationship of some kind of trust, right? If you think about it, that really makes a lot of sense, right? Because we have all learned to teach our kids to, be careful of the stranger danger. We have taught our kids how to recognize stranger danger and all those kinds of things. And when we grow up, we continue with that mentality, right? Where we take all kinds of measures to protect our homes, protect our belongings from the stranger danger. But we don't think about, somebody that I love and trust could break that trust. See? So we don't take those same kinds of precautions with the people that we love and trust that we take when it comes to strangers. And because we don't take those precautions, it makes it really easy for these people who have earned our love and trust to take advantage of us, to violate our boundaries, and commit the abuse. Now what happens? So it's like, okay, so here's like all of these things going on. There's all this evil, this injustice happening. And then on top of that, you see, it's like you get afraid, you get ashamed, you get blamed and guilted and shamed, so you take on a silence. Like as a survivor, you take on a silence. As maybe even the loved ones of a survivor, you begin to, it's like, quiet, don't tell anyone. Keep this under wraps. If people find out that you're a survivor, like I was sharing with you last episode, I have family members who are very concerned about the fact that I speak about my being a survivor of child sexual abuse so openly now. Because they're really concerned that now I won't get good marriage proposals. Because, there's just that kind of, like in our community, there's a sense that, survivor of child sexual abuse, rape, whatever, whoa, it's like you're not pure anymore. Or your honor has somehow been tarnished in people's eyes. Not to mention all the other assumptions people make about how you're no longer capable of being happy again, that you're not capable of being in healthy relationships anymore, because from their perspective, this is the kind of thing that destroys your life. It just destroys your life, and that's it. There's they don't think in terms of, healing is possible, recovery is possible. We can not only recover from a trauma like abuse, but we can actually thrive. For most people, that is not a part of their lived experience. That is not something that they know how to make happen. That is not something that they've seen happening. So it's not part of what's true for them. It's not part of their reality, right? So it's just keep it quiet. Don't tell, because it's going to, cause all these problems for you. But what happens when I stay silent as a survivor, or when my family members who are most aware of my hurt and my suffering stay silent about my hurt and suffering? We don't bring our suffering, our hurt to light. What happens is that it allows people to continue to believe in the myths, to continue to believe in the stereotypes of who is an abuser, who gets abused. And because they continue to believe in the myths and the stereotypes, when survivors come out and reach out for help and support, they get blamed and judged and shamed and guilted. And so then what happens? It's like it encourages the perpetrators. It encourages the perpetrators to keep perpetrating. It makes them be confident that they can get away with raping someone, with abusing someone, because the survivor is not going to speak up. The survivor is not going to, take action to out this person, to get this person punished or arrested or whatever, because it's just such a shameful thing. And not only is it a shameful thing, but even for the survivors who are brave enough to actually come out and speak up about what has happened to them and try to file let's say a police report and try to take their case to court so that justice can be done, so that this perpetrator can be held responsible for what they have done, and so that they can be taken away and put in jail, so that they can be physically restrained and prevented from hurting anyone else again. The chances of the case actually making it to court are so low. And even the cases that end up making it to court, the chances of a conviction happening in favor of the victim, the survivor, are even slimmer. There's less than, I think the last time I heard the stats on this, it was like only in 1 to 2% of cases of sexual assault, sexual abuse that are reported, are you able to get a successful conviction against the perpetrator. 1 to 2% of reported cases. Just think about that. How discouraging a thought that is. It's like, why, if I'm a survivor And I know that, my God, if I'm going to come out and I'm going to tell people about what has happened to me for the sake of, promoting justice, not only for myself, but potentially for my entire community, my entire society, that I'm going to be shamed and blamed, and not only that, but the chances of justice being done are like 1 to 2%. Because all these hurdles get put in my way to receiving that conviction against my perpetrator. No wonder there's so few survivors who even bother, or who even think that making a police report is an even viable option for them, or is something that even makes sense for them, something that might help them in their pursuit of healing and justice. So just think about this. Just think about this. Again, remember, an abuser will abuse when they think they can get away with it. So it's up to us to create conditions and create context and send out very, very clear messages that no, you're not, if you abuse, if you hurt, if you commit some kind of injustice against me or anyone else for that matter, you're not going to get away with it. I'm going to stand up for justice. I'm going to speak up about it. I'm going to shine the light on that injustice and on the pain and suffering and the hurt that you create. And not only am I going to do that as an individual, but for me to be able to have a sense of confidence that my friends, my family, my community members are going to stand behind me and support me in that, because we are all committed to shining the light on whenever there is injustice that's been committed. Whenever there's hurt and suffering, that we are committed to shining the light on it. And the reason, remember, why we are committed to shining the light, why we have this need to shine the light, why our hearts nag us about it, is because until we shine the light, we cannot understand the problem. If we do not understand the problem, we cannot implement effective solutions. If we do not implement effective solutions, we cannot stop the hurt, and we cannot get back to a place of peace. So for the sake of getting back to a place of peace, for the sake of being able to heal ourselves, we must stay committed to meeting this need that we have of shining a light on injustice whenever we experience it, whenever we witness it, at whatever level that light needs to be shined, at whatever level. So just think about, where can you shine the light on some kind of injustice in your life, so that you can help yourself and the people around you move to a place of greater peace and healing in your life, and both personally and as a society, as a community, as a family. And it's not easy to do this by any means. So if you find yourself struggling with this, please reach out for help. And you know that I'm one person that you can reach out to. And you know how to connect with me. Just go to my website at www.academyofthriving.com and click on the Contact Us page. From there you'll see different options for how you can connect with me. Until we connect next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.